I remember I was in Boston a number of years ago, and there was someone who used to come to my classes in the city in New York, and she said to me, I have a brother, he's a genius, computer genius, but he sits home all day, busy with his programs, doesn't have relationships, no social life, he's not dating. Maybe you talk to him. So we went for a walk. Yeah, indeed, a brilliant guy. But emotionally, what should I tell you? 5 years old, 10 years old, I don't know. There was no emotional intelligence at all, not even an awareness for emotions. He says, who needs emotions? I sit with my programs. He recently told me one of his big achievements was that he got these dishes that are able to pick up signals from all over the world. So he literally has 20 screens in his house where he can pick up TV signals from everywhere in the world, and he's going through like 8,000 channels. He says, how long it takes me to go through 8,000 channels? It can take a whole day just to go through all of them. And that's what he's so consumed with. And I asked him, are you interested in finding a nice woman in your life, a partner, a relationship? Yeah, it would be good, a nice idea. But now, I don't think there was anything mentally wrong with him, in a sense, clinically. I just think he's escaped into the world of the mind, and it's just safer. I didn't explore childhood traumas or whatever shaped him, but I saw the tragedy of a mind that's not in touch any longer with a heart, and let alone with a soul. And in more subtle and more nuanced ways, I've seen it many times. People who are brilliant and are able to, not only that, they cover up their tracks with their brilliance. They justify anything. And there's no way you can corner them, and not that anyone's interested in cornering them. But you can justify every distorted form of behavior if you're smart enough, and you can, that's what bias and prejudice does. So a mind without a heart, the dissonance, what they call cognitive dissonance, emotional dissonance, a mind without a heart we see very often. I'm not going to say it's exclusively male versus female, even though perhaps more men suffer from cognitive dissonance and disconnect in that way. But regardless, there's the concept where your mind, your brain smart, book smart, the IQ is great, but the EQ, emotional quotient, the emotional intelligence is very weak. And that can be because emotional make you vulnerable, and you're very protective, you don't want to be hurt. The mind can go to places, no one can hurt you because you have your set of armor, all your defense mechanisms, and the mind is there. But a mind without a soul, maybe one of the best examples would be the Nazi scientists and doctors who had no problem performing experiments on live human beings without anesthesia, who justified it all in the name of science and dismissed gypsies or Jews or anyone they thought were subhuman as being just like animals in a laboratory. In other words, a mind taking over without a conscience, without a soul, without any sense of accountability and humility, and you can justify anything. So we have really grotesque and decadent and obscene manifestations of what a mind without a heart, a mind without a soul can be. Not to take away and dismiss the power of a mind, but it's overrated. A mind is a great computer. It can process, it can develop ideas, it can research. If we only had hearts and no minds, we'd be perhaps very emotional creatures, but we wouldn't be able to find objective truths. We wouldn't know what's right, what's wrong. We wouldn't be able to look at different options. We would be driven by our impulses, by our impulsive emotions. Animals in the wild have intelligence, but their intelligence is controlled by their emotions. If they're hungry, they use their intelligence to search for prey, to hunt, to protect their young, to protect themselves. But survival of the fittest is the key cardinal law. The idea of a soul introduces transcendence, something beyond yourself. And when the mind understands that, then the mind is a tremendous tool of experiencing something beyond yourself. But if the mind becomes I'll call it a weapon, an instrument of your own selfishness, then the mind can be the worst possible force because it will justify it and find explanations. It will justify the most immoral type of behavior. So I'm specifically focusing mind without a soul. Mind without a heart deserves its own conversation, even though there's overlap but it has many similarities. The point is, it's not just about what the mind can accomplish. So let's think of a computer, even the best computers, and even with artificial intelligence. Yes, you'll definitely be able to program human experiences in there, and it could, I'm sure, simulate and fabricate, and I don't know the right word I want to use is, it can artificially induce a spiritual state, because if enough spiritual experiences are programmed within it, it can replicate that and probably come up with many creative new experiences. But is that truly a soul? Can a machine really transcend itself? Or at the end of the day, it's going to be as good as what was programmed in it, even if you program the concept of transcendence in it. And transcendence includes spontaneity, transcendence includes surprises, transcendence includes mistakes. I know even all that can be programmed, but it's still going to be limited by the programmers, what you put into it. And soul, in real definition of soul, is the ability to experience something that was not put into you, something beyond, even beyond the beyond. And as such, a mind without a soul is a very sad reality. It can be brilliant, it could be right, it can play the best chess game and every mind game possible, but it will not have a life. It will not have a life. It won't have all that is necessary, that is so vital to us, including the mistakes we make, the ability to embrace each other, the ability to be vulnerable, truly vulnerable. Can it be simulated? Perhaps to some extent, but I don't want to speak about artificial intelligence right now, because at the end of the day, if it could be simulated, it's simulating, again, human experiences. It didn't innovate it on its own. It's still coming from somewhere. But on a human level, let me say this to each of us personally. You have a tremendous soul within you. That is your single most important asset. Your soul has faculties. One of those faculties is your mind. Maybe the most powerful faculty, not the other way around. It's not that your mind is discovered a soul, or your mind, some say, is wired to have spirituality in it because that's what we need to survive, or that's part of our dreams, are part of who we have evolved into. It's the other way around. We're spiritual beings on a physical journey. We're spiritual beings on an intellectual, emotional journey. The intellect and the emotions are tools and faculties of your soul. Your soul is something that is indivisible, not defined in terms. Think of it, the indeterministic of indeterministic superconscious states that go beyond even the subatomic and quantum world, and then they're channeled into conscious experiences. And that's where life really plays itself out, the magic of life, the mystique of life. Not everything has to be understood. It's actually quite refreshing to know you can embrace something without understanding it. Understanding is part of controlling it. Understanding is part of processing it or analyzing it, which is important, but that's not where relationships are built. The true, most loving relationships are built on a mystique. That means I don't really own it, I don't understand it, but I embrace it nevertheless. That's part of a mind, part of the soul that goes beyond mind. So mind can be overrated. Obviously we need it because it helps us find objectivity, hopefully. It helps us look at things beyond ourselves before we emotionally commit to them. But at the same time, it's the soul that really is your driving force. So a mind without a soul can take on the worst possible manifestations and ramifications. A mind with a soul allows the mind to express and experience broader horizons. Courage to be able to dare to go to places that your mind on its own may not want to go to, either because of its limited parameters or because it tells you why risk it and so on. But a true mind is the ability to go from the conscious to the superconscious. A mind has that type of humility, humility, that allows it to explore things that are beyond your comfort zone, beyond your routines, beyond your preconceived notions, beyond your wiring, and experience true transcendence. That's what we are seeking. And you'll see so many of the, distortions of Western civilization. Eastern probably as well, but Western civilization is where the mind has become more powerful than the soul. And indeed, it was a result of the duality that once existed, and then science, in a sense, saying we shall replace everything that is spiritual or transcendent. It'll be experienced through science and through reason, and in some way losing the magic of faith, of transcendence, of experiencing something beyond ourselves. And then that became the new religion. When in truth, we have to remember we always remain souls. It's true, there was a time where religion suppressed, and maybe still suppresses many people, and it invokes conformity, it demands forms of closing the mind, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about a soul that's expansive and uses the mind to expand its horizons. So may we all be able to join these two forces, the soul and the mind, or I should put it this way, to allow the soul to shine through your intellect and through your emotions and through your behavior, where you have a full holistic system at work, a spiritual, transcendent, intangible reality that channels into your intellect, into your cognitive, your emotional, and your behavioral instruments and mechanisms. And that will lead to the most meaningful life possible. In our time, especially when there's so much of a lack of leadership, a lack of moral compass, this message could not be more important. Because you see, look at the academic world, its disconnect from so much of morality, where people officially supposed to be in a place that's supposed to be objective, seeking the truth, instead getting involved in politics and getting involved in personalization and demonization and choices that are completely based on biases and prejudices instead of objective observation. This is all part of understanding that we need to re-infuse into our minds and into our hearts a spirituality that transcends our own interests and comes to respect a deeper and higher truth. Because at the end of the day, the mind, the greatest mind, is achieving its ultimate objective when it experiences a truth greater than the person that's conceiving of these ideas, a truth beyond ourselves. That's what the true mind is about, experiencing reality beyond ourselves. And then channeling that back into our personal, emotional, psychological, and intellectual lives. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this shines some light on that conscious, superconscious bridge that we all so elusively, that is so elusive that we all try to seek to bridge, and manifest it in a real life that is not in the words of Bertrand Russell, where he said he could behave unethically because he also teaches mathematics and he's not a triangle, but rather to aspire to be what you teach and to teach what you are, as much as possible, to bridge that dissonance and create a more seamless fusion of our greatest ideals and our behavior and actions on earth. Thank you so much. This has been Simon Jacobson, Meaningful Live. Love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments. Please share, please subscribe, and I look forward to see you soon again. Thank you and be blessed.